What is going on, guys? My name is Sheets, and welcome to Feeds Mindset, episode number 18 with the man, the myth, the legend, Nvyius, man. How are you? Welcome
Yo,
in.
Donovan, oh my God, too much gas already, bruh. All
I'm
right,
excited, man. I'm excited.
well, bro.
We've been friends for a while.
Yeah, yeah. I miss the comp scene, dude. I miss it so much.
Yeah,
But
I know.
MW2 is like at the end of its life cycle at this point, so no one's gonna do tourneys for it.
I know.
I
I
just,
know.
I hope they come back and fucking boom with this next con. I really
Yeah.
do.
No, and I was really excited. I don't regret anything back in those days. The comp scene was so fun. Being able to play those sniping tournaments and just to kind of showcase yourself. And it was just a good time in general. But, for me personally, and I've said this on other podcasts and even to you a little bit, back then I did have opportunities to be a caster, which is what I am now. But
Mhm.
I chose, to be the player at that time, which I don't regret it at all. I mean, I was in a non-egoish way. I felt like I was the most like personalized in the comp scene because like I try to connect with everybody. Like I was going into all the chats being like, hey, like hope you have a good game. If you need anything, let me know, whatever. Like I would take the tournaments and I would turn them into networking rather than like I'm gonna shit on you and you're gonna know it. And so that definitely helped a lot of my credibility, not only as a sniper but as a creator. um, but yeah, but I mean, I do miss it. I don't regret it. If I had a chance to do it over again, just to see how it would turn out, I would like to just be the caster and host tournaments because I know the tournaments would have went well. Because I know what I can do and what I can provide. But I don't regret doing the tournaments at all. It was super fun, and that's what I was going to get into. Me and you are friends. We've been friends for definitely well over a year. I think going on close to 2 now. And me and you had actually met in the comp scene.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Things
we
seem
had
fucking serious.
it's so crazy because I memed you for like weeks when we first met because the way that we met. So I ended up creating a team called the Bop Squad, and then I was also a part of a team called Jinx Official, which I'm pretty sure is disbanded to this date, but back then it wasn't. And I had actually joined Jinx just to kind of at when I had first joined them, it was just to mainly get the resources to get what I wanted going. Eventually, it ended up me being actually a part of the team and doing discords and hanging out with you guys all the time. Me, Shrumps, and Sabotage, and Salad, and all those other wonderful people being able to hang out was super sick and super cool. But when I had first joined, it was kind of more of a resource because I wanted to create my own little tiny competitive squad. And then I also wanted to build one for Jinx, so that way we didn't have to outsource all the time for any scrims or anything, so we could just fight each other all the time. And
Mhm.
that's how you had came in. You had played. I think the tournament that me and you had met was your first one. Is that right?
Slights tournament was the first one I ever played. Yeah,
Okay, so
played
that
against
so that was the second one then. Yeah.
yeah.
And I remember you had knifed somebody.
Bro, I was clowning that for so long, bro. And like I went back on the VOD after because Slight was telling me like people were fucking with me and shit.
Hmm.
I went back on his VOD after the tourney was over and I rewatched our game, completely forgetting about the knife rule, by the
Yeah.
way, because I was just so hyped for my first ever like sniping tournament. I mean, I've
Yeah.
played
Yeah.
competitively before in like Advanced Warfare and shit, but that
Yeah.
was Red Gods. Um, I completely forgot about the knife thing. So I knifed the first person, and there was another point. I think it was P3. P3 is the one in the building, right? On Embassy.
Like inside the building.
Yeah,
That's
inside the
like
building, like in
that's
front of their spawn. Or is that
That's P
P4?
four. P4.
P4. Yeah. So I don't remember who it was, but I was literally like probably 2 frames away from knifing the second person to get my
Getting
team disqualified.
disqualified.
And one of my friends killed him before I could get the knife off. Bro, I saw that for the second time and nearly passed out.
Oh
How
man.
distraught I would have been if I
Yeah.
got my team DC'd over
Your
that shit. I
first
would have
ever
been so
like your first
confused.
ever technical attorney too is
Yeah, bro.
crazy.
Like, come on,
That's so
man.
funny, man. I remember, at the time, like I said, the Bob Squad and Jinx and everything. I had basically everything set up, but the only issue is that Jinx needed to have a lead for their comp side because I was already focused on the Bob Squad, and I couldn't let any of my guys be a lead for them because they were already mine. And you had just kind of wiggled it into the matrix there, and you had got in, and you had took over that lead spot, and you was the lead for Jinx side and stuff. And we did scrims, and everything was great. But I remember that being, because I even myself, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and act like I'm your best friend. I clowned you for a few weeks too. I would always throw that meme up where it's like, "What do you have?" And it's like a knife, and it's like, no. but it was sick. It was a super fun time, and it was a lot of laughs. Like during that actual day, there was tons of people that's like, "Oh my fucking god, this Envy kid won't stop knifing." But like now looking back at it, it was so funny, man. It was so funny. It triggered a bunch of people.
I was doing it like every fucking kill, bro. Like,
I know. It was crazy. You literally did one knife, and it just turned into just a gaslighting of events.
But I see it as more like a blessing and a curse because, like, yeah, I got clowned on it for like a month, but it also like got my name kind of like out there because that was also my introduction to the community and the sniping com and whatnot. Because me and Slight have been very long time friends. I think I've known him for like 4 or 5 years at this point, or 3, 4 years. I used to be his editor back in Destiny 2, so he kind of just like fell off the face of the planet. And then one of my friends told me he was on Twitter and he was making a sniping tournament, and that's when I reconnected with Slay, and he had me come in and he found a team for me because I knew nobody.
I think for us it was really good because obviously we had the competitive sniping and we would do scrims and we had our chats and we would talk all the time. But I think a good part of that though is that when we first started diversifying ourselves into this comp scene, that's when Ranked came out, and like that took us over, and that kind of like I feel like that was like the saving grace because with the comp scene, yeah, like we was talking a good bit and playing a good bit, but we wasn't really like becoming like friends. We was just playing against each other. We would play, we would see how we do. But I feel like when Ranked came out, when me, you, Shrumps, and Reese would all get together and play and stuff, it was just such a blast to be able to hang out with you guys, to go up against these shitters and shit on them. And like we would even pull snipers out. We would do we'd go in Ranked. All 4 of us would have snipers and we'd shit on people for reactions. And it was, I miss it. I miss it. And I don't feel like people do that anymore. And it's really sad. I feel like the comp sniping scene, I don't think it'll ever fall off. But I think that like after like the second or third month, it really like derailed. Like tournaments were not hosted anymore. A lot in a non-cocky way at all. Like I ended up being the only sniper in Ranked that was like normalized. Like everybody else that sniped and Ranked for content didn't do it anymore. They went back to search and stuff, which is nothing to them. I'm not saying anything about it, but it's just like everybody lost that motivation, and it really sucked. So that's kind of a question I want to ask you on this topic before we get into everything is, with the comp scene, it did well for you. You got your name out there, and we did a lot of tournaments, had a lot of laughs. But now that you started to realize that the comp scene derailed, I mean, Jinx had ended, the Bop Squad had disbanded, we all went on our own ways. I mean, how did you feel, now because you didn't have the sniping scene anymore?
Well, I mean, in the beginning when it first happened, I was kind of bummed out because I mean, I kind of figured that everyone would completely go their separate ways and I wouldn't really play with any of the old crew anymore, but that just simply wasn't the case. I still play with Reese, I still play with Shrumps here and there and all them, but I mean, it was really just kind of I want to say learning curve because during the comp scene and everything, that's like all we were doing. We were either scrimming or playing together in ranked, trying to learn maps and rotations and all that shit, and getting prepared for upcoming tournaments. So when that was over, kind of had to like figure out how to grow my brand and not focus on everything else because it was obvious that the COD comp scene was fucking going down the drain. So I mean, I think everything happens for a reason, and it worked out because, well, I'm now affiliated on Kick, and I found out a schedule for me that works with uploading YouTube finally for the first time in like years.
Yeah.
It's worked out. I've found a schedule. I stuck to it, and it's probably because that ended. Because if it was still going on today, I wouldn't have the time to fucking make videos and stream every single day unless it was scrims and shit like that. And I can eventually get boring to people. It's
Yeah.
not different shit.
No, I mean, I definitely understand, and I think it's a blessing and a curse because it definitely was something that a lot of people, including both of us, that was genuinely passionate about. But as a creator, it didn't really get us nowhere where we wanted to be. So it's kind of like it's like a healthy reality check where it's like we didn't want to let it go, but at the same time, like if we would have continued doing that for the next 2-3 months, that would have been 2 or 3 months. We wouldn't have posted content. We would have been wrapped up in making excuses. Oh, I got scrims today. Oh, I can't hang or whatever, and it would just transpire to this big ravel of just excuses to not get, and produce. So it kind of was a happy medium in a way. Also, one other thing I did want to mention, talking about the comp scene. Shout out Steven. Steven's not really known in the comm, like he don't really preach himself out there, but he was such a blessing to be able to have him and his expertise and his laughs and stuff, and giving us ideas on map rotations and ways to improve ourselves. Shout out to Steven if you're watching this.
Other times that we'd be doing VOD reveals after like scrims or tourneys and shit.
No, there's even a couple times like you'd be in a Discord call with him alone for like over like 2-3 hours just chilling with him.
Yeah, because I wanted him to like look over my scrim VODs and whatnot, and it got to a point where I had to like mentally prepare myself before he would join the call because I knew I was
would give it to you.
I was gonna get bullied.
That's the beautiful thing about it, man. Like I know we joke about it and stuff, but there's not a lot of people that would give free advice like that just for hours and expect nothing in return. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And like I said, Steven, if you're watching this, man, you're a blessing. So yeah, so before we kind of get into who Nvyius is and where he came from, how would you currently describe yourself today as anybody that's new to your channel or anybody in your community that may be new to you? What kind of content do you do, and who are you?
Well, I mean, at this point, with all the content that I have been releasing, I'm more so just like a general content creator for variety kind of streamer, as well as basically doing COD on the side at this point because there's not much to do in COD besides go for fucking clips and shit. And now that my account's banned for a month, I have to play on like an alt, and if I don't feel like leveling weapons, I just play other games. But my YouTube, it consists of a lot of horror games now because my friends hate me and know that I'm a bitch when it comes to horror games. So there's a whole bunch of raw footage I have to go through of us playing horror games that I'm still trying to get through. But I try to release as much COD as I can because at my heart, that is what I kind of want to be known for as a COD sniper. It's kind of far fetched, but like the next Sprat or Testy or some shit like that. Like that would be 100%. That's like fucking peak. But that's what I have something to look forward to, something to keep me grinding out this fucking franchise.
Yeah. So I mean, on top of on that statement, are you excited about the new COD coming out? Do you have a lot of plans for it?
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of content opportunities. I mean, all the old maps are coming back, so it's gonna be a lot of nostalgia, and a lot of content creators are gonna definitely try to play that to their videos and try to use that as their growth. Which I mean, I'm definitely trying to do my damn self.
Bunch of losers, but check me out.
But the game itself, I mean, at its core, it's basically just a DLC for MW2, but kind of like an overhauled DLC. But with all the new shit that they're adding, it definitely looks like it could be a lot of fun, and it looks like it has potential and actually has movement, so you're not sluggish around the fucking map all the time.
Yeah.
My main hope is that with all the movement we've seen, which looks great, that they have good gunplay and good gunplay with snipers on top of that, because knowing Call of Duty and their track record for these past couple of CODs, they just hate snipers. I can totally see all the hit marker machine.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I did see that they were going to make the health 150. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is, but
that was the same amount of health that we had in BO4, right?
I think so. I could be wrong.
It was either like 150 or 200, one of those. I think it was 150.
Yeah.
And if you had like the shield thing, it went up to.
But I just wonder, like, that's kind of my worry is like, are they going to increase the damage rate of snipers because the health is more? Because like I feel like there's, let me figure out how to word this. I genuinely feel like there is developers at the headquarters of Call of Duty that create these games. I feel like they think sniping is not as important. I really do, because the way that they've answered this community and the snipers that they nerf all the time, and all these hit markers, and even sometimes you'll shoot them in the head and you'll still get a hit marker. Like, I truly don't think they actually give a shit about the sniping scene at all.
Not at all.
I think they see it as like, if you want to have gun skill, you should outgun him with your 45 bullets.
Hmm. And it makes like zero sense to me. It's always made no sense to me, because when you look at old Call of Duty, the shit that made this franchise as big as it is was us, was the
Hmm.
sniping, community, was the Sprats, the Testaments, the fucking Pomages. Like, it was all of them that brought everything up. And sniping has kind of been associated with COD ever since like Black Ops 1, MLG, fucking Mountain Dew, Doritos, and all that
Hmm.
shit. And to have the community that, in my opinion, basically made this fucking
Hmm.
franchise be shit on consistently is like, wow.
Yeah.
But we're very resilient, because no matter how I've noticed, no matter how many times they've nerfed the snipers, no matter how many different ways they want to change the snipers, we've always found a way to continue sniping. And that's something I've always loved about this community. That we've never just been like, fuck sniping. No, I'm not doing this shit anymore. Like, we just adapt to it, and it makes the clips even better because it's more impressive, because it's a lot harder to do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely it's a struggle, that's for sure, because you're always competing to have better content, and it's not the fact that the content's harder to make, it's just the fact that the developers make those chances for the content so much more minimal with how uh, like underpowered you are. Like, I feel like underpowered is not
Mhm.
really a word anybody uses, but like you always hear like overpowered guns and stuff, and it's like, for the flip side of not being a sniper, yes, but like as a sniper, like you're kind of the underdog. Like, you have to prevail and transpire. And like, if you're not good with your flicks, or you're not good with your movement or your quick scopes, like you could easily get caught in the act, and it does kind of suck. Um, but yeah, but I am excited for the new COD 2. I think for me personally, as much as I absolutely loved being able to be a comp sniper and all the compliments that came with it, I think that I am going to diversify into the casting perspective, because at the end of the day, I gotta weigh my options and think what could possibly be better for me in the future. I've always wanted to go competitive in COD, but ever since I realized that it's controller only and you can't do keyboard and mouse, I've really lost a lot of passion, because I don't really feel like relearning controller over again. I feel like I do have a good skill set on keyboard and mouse, but at the end of the day, my opinions are invalid, because it can't happen. It's not a thing. It's controller only, so it does suck. So bouncing off on all of that, and now we've kind of gotten to know who you are, the type of content you've done, where you've came from, and our background obviously as friends. Let's travel back and let's talk about how you even got into gaming. I mean, how did that stimulate, not really where Nvyius had came from, like the name or the branding, just more so just getting into gaming, and it turning from, whether it be an escape or a hobby or something, into a passion and a long time investment to your future career.
Well, I mean, I grew up with three brothers. At the time of me growing up, they were all in high school. So, I mean, they were basically almost moved out. They moved out by the time I think I was like 6 or 7. But they're who introduced me to gaming. I think the first game I ever played was probably Tekken or some kind of Mario game. It's
Hmm.
one of those. I know it's very opposite end of the spectrum, but I can't remember exactly. But I mean, I grew up playing all the fighting games with them: Tekken, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Soul Calibur, all that shit. And one thing specifically that really got me hooked and drove my love for gaming in general was the competitiveness that we had with each other. And one thing that we would always do with a new fighting game that would drop is we would instantly go into the story mode on the hardest difficulty, and the four of us would be in like a little huddle position around the
Hmm.
TV, and we would just pass the controller around for each boss that we failed at. And say like 2 hours went by, and one of us finally beat that boss that we've been stuck on, the whole room would just erupt and freak out, and we'd all get just so excited and shit, and it would be the same rotation all over again for the next boss. Um, but yeah, after they moved out, I mean, my love for games just kept going. I ended up getting a DS and I had a Wii and playing Mario Kart and all that shit. Then I got my first Xbox when I was 9 for my ninth birthday, and I mean, it was a problem, bro. Like my school was struggling, bro. Homework was not getting done. It was
Yeah,
bad, bro.
priorities.
It was bad. I mean, back then, like it got so bad, my parents had to like put me on a fucking time limit and shit. Like I could
Dang.
only play the game for like 4 hours a day.
Yeah,
But
shoot.
then that led into me like trying to sneak the game in like late at night or
Mm-hmm.
early in the morning before I had to go to school and shit like that. And I mean, it's always just been a passion. It's been an escape. Um, I've met a lot of lifelong friends through the whole online space, because I've always struggled with social interaction in person,
Mm-hmm.
which has translated to this, but this has actually helped me a lot more with my in-person social skills. So with the amount of friends I was able to make online, it gave me that confidence in person to try and make friends that I could actually hang out with outside of the whole gaming realm. And that led to a lot of lifetime best friends that I have today. So gaming's done a lot for me, even though a lot of a lot of old heads think that it's just a waste of time and kills your brain cells and all that shit. But I owe a lot to this space. I've spent a lot of my life doing it.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a good quality to have, and it's just kind of it's a blessing in disguise. I feel like a lot of the people that have opinions on it just haven't lived that life, and it's like me and you was talking
Mhm.
about before, and I'll bring it up a little bit here in a bit, but about you recently done a face reveal. I don't know if I had mentioned this or not. If I didn't, I apologize. But Envy actually does have his own podcast. I had featured on it. It was a kind of an audio only type of podcast. But shout out to him and his podcast. Check his links out below. But even the same thing about getting your face cam and stuff out there. Like we was talking about this before. Like my opinion, everybody's going to have different opinions, but my outlook on it is going to be a lot more different from your outlook because we don't
Mhm.
live those lives, we don't have those thoughts, we don't fight those battles, and something that may seem silly to me may be everything that you're about and something that you're super passionate. And I feel like that's just a lot of things that people don't understand nowadays. And there's more that I definitely do want to touch topic on, but I do kind of want to cover a little bit more of the background of Envy and how you transpired before we get into that. So you got into gaming, you played with your brothers and sisters, and I was the same way. I mean, my biggest thing that I can remember being like 8, 9 years old is we would always have a Nintendo 64, and we had Pokemon battles on it, and we would play the little mini games on it, and we would have this stupid fucking $5 championship belt. It was a WWE championship belt, and we would always play
Oh
the
my
mini
God.
games on the hardest difficulty. And me, my brother, and my
Mhm.
sister, all three of us would play, and whoever won would keep the title for a week, and we would come back the next weekend to see who would win that title. Because the week we had school, and the weekend we didn't do nothing, and it was just kind of a little cool ritual for us. And I,
That's
I
so
never
smart.
really, I never really had a lot of competitiveness. I like knowing that when I show up, I can deliver, but I'm not competitive to the fact of like I can beat this bitch in a 1v1 no problem. Like that's not really me. I'll kind of rephrase it and be like, I'm pretty sure I can beat you in a 1v1, but I'm not gonna be like I'm gonna kick your ass. I do think that I'm better. Like so I get a little bit too empathetic when it comes to competitiveness. I don't have like that dog in me, like it's not there for me.
Oh, I've seen some of your clips, bro. Like,
But no, I mean, in the heat of the moment, I do. Don't get me wrong. I know that there's things that like could get out of context. I get into it when I know that I delivered, but like if it's not in the heat of the moment, like I'm not really that guy unless if I just pop off like that one biggest clip that I had on a silo when it was a 1v4 and I hit a quad feed to
mhm.
window surround. I think the only thing I'm upset about that clip in particular is like, yeah, like I popped off and 1v4 and had a crazy moment, but that actually ended up winning us that game later on, which is kind of something
Mhm.
sad. I wish I kind of would have put that in the video because that kind of made the change and which made me like why I was as hype as I was. Um, but yeah, but I'm excited for all that stuff, and I think that it's really cool. But so now you've got into gaming, you've had those competitive moments with your brother and sister, and getting into those different games, and having the DS, and having the Wii, and getting the Xbox, and being a just the normal problematic kid in school that's gets there and is super super sleepy, and as soon as you get home, you get on the game and you forget about ever sleeping. So
And all your homework.
how did you get into streaming? Where did streaming come into play for you? Now that now we have an idea of your gaming background.
Um, I mean, I started streaming like here and there, little points whenever I'd be playing with some of my IRLs during like middle school and high school, just us doing stupid shit. And
Mm,
I used to screen record the streams as I was streaming so I could go back to it and make some like shit quality YouTube videos as well.
mm-hmm.
Um, but that was like once every couple of months. I started actually like trying to grow my streams and becoming an actual streamer um, while I was playing Destiny 2.
Mm-hmm.
And in Destiny 2, there's a game mode called Trials of Osiris that a lot of people need help with because it's an end game activity, and
Mm-hmm.
the whole goal is to get 7 wins in a row without losing, or if you have a thing called a mercy passage, it'll forgive a loss. So you could technically lose once but still go flawless, which is 7 and
Mm-hmm.
0. And if you do that, you get to go to a super rare and exclusive end game area called the Lighthouse that gives you exclusive gear that shows everyone in your community or everyone on your friends list that, I did this thing, this super difficult thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of what I built my original like support system off of. Um, because I would do trials carries for like 8, 10, 12 hours a day every weekend, Friday to Monday, like basically nonstop. And what I would do that was different than everybody else was I would do it for free. There was another
Mm-hmm.
streamer I knew of that did it for free, but that's who I got the idea from.
Yeah.
So I would always post on LFGs, like come into my streams if you want a free lighthouse carry. Um, don't worry about it. Just all you have to do is follow me on my Twitch. That's all you have to
Mm-hmm.
do, and be patient while we help other people out. And I mean, I miss that. I miss that so much because it's honestly very heartwarming, all the different reactions I've gotten because it's a huge deal in that community. People showering me thank yous and oh my God and all this and that and the third. So that's what kept me doing it for free. But after like probably a year and a half of me doing that, Destiny 2 inevitably fucking plummeted and turned into an
Mm-hmm.
absolutely horrible game that I cannot play anymore. It's been uninstalled for probably a year now. Um, and after I did that and tried to switch back to COD because I've always originally been a COD kid,
Mm-hmm.
um, it was a really, really big struggle because I had made the mistake of building and putting all my eggs in one basket basically with Destiny, so that when I decided to quit Destiny and move on to a different game, no one was interested in that. So I had to
Wow.
basically start from the ground up again. Um, so that was really discouraging because at that point in time, I was looking at numbers all the time and
Mm-hmm.
was super focused on that and was getting down on myself because I wasn't hitting the same numbers I used to. Which, if you're a streamer, don't fucking do that. Don't get that fucking trope because that will destroy you, dude. And that'll completely shatter any kind of motivation you have to make this thing work. So yeah, I was stuck in that trope for probably close to a year, couple months. And then I started trying to stream a bit more. I think towards the end of Cold War or a couple years later at the beginning of Modern Warfare 2, I started to stream kind of more consistently and try to build my community again. And
Mm-hmm.
Slights Tourney helped me out tremendously with that, getting me introduced and having a whole bunch of new COD people, not Destiny people, come into my streams.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of what sparked my passion for the streaming thing. I kind of prefer streaming over YouTube anyway, because you get to be more personal with people who are supporting you. You can only do so much through comment sections.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's a big factor because it's real time. It's people that have issues or they're having a bad day or maybe they are just wanting a tutorial or just like your Destiny stuff. Maybe you're doing something that provides some type of help for them. Like it's real time for them to get whatever answers they want like right then and there. And I think that's why streaming has transpired and changed the lives of many because it's not the fact that they're all going through stuff and need stuff to watch. It's the fact that just a simple like, hey Envy, thanks for popping on the stream, hope you're doing well, like that like changes so many people and like we don't realize it. And I kind of slightly felt the same way with COD Ghost. COD Ghost was a game that really kind of got me into streaming, and got my gaming up and playing Search and Rescue. I never liked Search and Destroy back then. I was always a fan of Search and Rescue. I used to despise Search and Destroy because I was like, oh, like you die once and then that's it. Like that's boring, And like now I'm like completely flipped because I'm like, if you die, you're just shit, But I didn't have that mindset back then. And it was so cool being able to snipe for because this was COD Ghost was old back then, and you had the chance to meet more genuine people that don't get offended as easily, and it was just a lot funner of a time because you could kind of be a bit more real with people back then than what you kind of can now, because you like nowadays you don't really know like who's hiding what or like what they've actually done. And back then, I just feel like today's time is a lot more judgmental than what it used to be back then. And being able to play Search and Rescue and have those friend groups and build that and the sniping stuff and collecting somebody's tag to make them respawn in the game, like it was such a fun time. I wish that I could relive the experience, but at the same time, I am blessed and happy that I did get to kind of partake in it, at that time being. So lastly, before we kind of get into, some questions and stuff, where did Nvyius come from? I mean, your branding, your name, you've been in the gaming, you've been in the streaming, you've connected with Slight and connected with many creators over here. But I don't think all of this community you built, I don't really know if they know, unless if they're like personal friends, they don't really know where Envy came from. So how did that happen?
There isn't like a super deep story behind it. I kind of just, because my name before this, I think was like X Snipes or some shit, but the I was an L because I was a quirky Xbox kid. But I just wanted to change my tag because I had it for so long and it was still kind of associated with Destiny, because around that time I didn't want to play Destiny. I quit and came back to Destiny like 4 times. So that was in between one of those phases when I went to college. And I literally, because at the time I was listening to a lot of lo-fi kind of music and like chill vibe stuff. So I kind of just shuffled through my vibe playlist a couple of times to see if there was a cool song title or something that came up. And I saw a song called Lost, and there was another one called Envy. And I kind of wanted just Envy or just Lost to be my name. But of course, both of those were taken because it was short names, and all of those are always taken on Xbox. So I then changed it to Lost in Envy, which I liked, and that wasn't taken. So I had Lost in Envy for a long time. Ended up making my own little COD team with my IRLs and shit on World War II. We were lost in something. You had to change your tag, one of those. But then after that ended and the next COD came around, I changed my name to O Envy, and I went back to Destiny. So I was O Envy for a while, and that's the name that a lot of people that know me from then kind of associate me with. And for the longest time, my Twitter handle was still O Envy, and it was so cringe. I fucking hate that name. I hated that name so much. I don't know why I put O in front of it.
Yep, I'm the same way.
And then I wanted to change that because I started thinking that's fucking cringe. I don't want O in front of my name. It's weird as fuck. And then I posted on my Instagram story asking people to help me think of a new name but keep Envy in it because I like Envy. And my buddy Dez, that I've been friends with for a long time, and I met him through the Destiny community, he came up with Nvyius, which I liked a lot. So I took that, gave him no credit for it. Fuck he does. So yeah, ever since then I've kind of just had Nvyius. I've always wanted NVY, but that's taken as well. And the person who has that tag, just to make it worse, is a fucking Fortnite warrior. That's probably like 10 years old. Doesn't want to give me the tag.
That's so funny. I mean, I feel you 100% because, as you know, I used to go by UFeeds for a long time, and I was the same exact way. Like at first, I just did it just because obviously the actual name I wanted was taken, and it was the only name that was like fluent. But now thinking back on it, like thinking about being Feeds XD before UFeeds, like I wish that thought would have came into my head because UFeeds was awful because it wasn't the fact that I didn't like the name. It's the fact that that's what people would call me. Nobody would ignore the fucking U. They would always say UFeeds. They would never say feeds. They would never say the capitalized F with the rest of the name. They would always see the fucking underlining goddamn U in it, and they'd be like, "Oh, U Feeds. Hi, just wanted to, formalidate myself." And it's like, "Fuck you, just call me
Cool.
Feeds."
At
But
least you got that, bro. I mean, people call me Nvyius, Navius, Navy, fucking Lost in Navy, Lost in Navy, Oh
I
Navy.
I don't
Like,
get I don't
bro.
get my stuff. I don't. It don't happen to me much, but people call me Feds all the time, and it pisses me off because it makes me feel like they're very uneducated because they don't see the two E's. So I get called Feds all the time, and it does piss me off. I'm not gonna lie, but
You're the feds, bro.
at the end of the day, it is what it is. But yeah, but I
Something
mean
that I can't
that's
read.
sick being able to get, and something I did want to bring up on top of that too. With your Lost and Envious, I had two ideas as I was thinking. While you was talking, is A, obviously it'd be a sick montage name, but B, whenever you get to the point of whenever you get to the point of like releasing merch and stuff, like that would be sick to be like on a
Oh
back
yeah.
piece or something like Lost and Envious. That'd be so sick. I think that's kind
Oh
of
yeah.
that's the cool thing about it is that ideas that may seem a little cringe or something, you don't know how they're going to turn out, and that's why it's
It'll be
always good to do
for
your
everyone,
homework
bro.
and
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah. I mean, the thought of releasing merch is like a dream to me, but like obviously you need to have a good amount of following before
Mm.
it's logical to put that much time, money, and effort into designs for shirts and sweaters and all that shit. But it's definitely something that I would love to do if I'm ever given the opportunity. But that idea would be cool. I can't lie. That idea would be cool.
Yeah. No, and I'm the same way. I mean, I do have my own merch out, and I've wanted to do merchandise for my podcast, but I do want it to kind of blow up a bit more. And I know that I wasn't at like where I should have been to release merch. I did okay, but I did it off a website called Teespring, which is a website that basically you pick like the fabric of whatever you're putting on, and then you throw your shit on there, and it'll tell you Teespring will be like, hey, like we would charge you $17 to pay us for this shirt. So all you do is you raise that price from 17 to like 21, and then you make an extra like what, $5 on that. And it's a safer way. It's not the best way. It does have good quality. It's a safer way to A, not invest money that you may or may not have, but B, you don't lose anything because they basically get paid right off the rip, and so that's why I went through Teespring to do mine. I think merchandise is important for every creator. I do think that it's opinionative, when you want to do merch or when you don't. The important thing is that when you do it, you always try to plan ahead as you continue your career and continue growing. You always need to try to plan, new drops and stuff. Kind of, find some way to keep it fresh, and that's definitely something I can say I don't do. Like my store's been out for probably 7 or 8 months now. I started it back in like right at Christmas of last year. And like I said, it did well, but I don't promote it like I should. But, at the end of the day, to each their own. But merchandise is very sick, and specifically on your topic, Lost and Envious. Like I said, I think that would be such a sick branding to see. Even like down like a sleeve, like Lost and Envious would be sick. So yeah, before we kind of wrap things up here, we're already almost about 40 minutes in. I did want to talk about one more thing. It's kind of two topics in one. It's about something that we're both passionate about, is obviously mental health. And obviously, the factor too. If anybody doesn't know Envy, he had recently just did a face reveal. Like, not has it been over a week? Has it been a week or two?
I did it. I did it last Friday or Thursday.
Yeah.
No,
So,
I did it this past Tuesday. Sorry.
okay, so it's not even been a week.
This
Yeah,
past Tuesday. Yeah.
that's crazy. So yeah, so
A couple
I
days.
wanted to get into that because there's a lot of people that's afraid to talk, that's afraid to show their face, that's afraid to build connections, and just have a lot of mental health issues, and they're in their own head. They're anxious, they have anxiety, they don't know what people are going to say, what they're going to think, and like I said, I mean, I've preached upon it, and I vouch, and anybody that struggles with that is more than welcome to reach out to me or Envy if you're struggling through those things. But I do want to hear your side from it, because you, like, and in the most respectful way, you kind of were one of those people, because on the podcast that you had done with me being a guest on it, quite a couple months back, we had a long talk for like an hour talking about my opinions on it and stuff, and just kind of going back and forth, trying to build up and know that I'm going to be behind you and all this kind of stuff. And like at the same time, like my opinions on it aren't as validated as yours are because you lived that life and I didn't. I've been on camera ever since I can remember. So for people that struggle with those issues in mental health, take them through what you went through and try to make it make sense for them and what can they do to get out of that zone.
Well, I started making content probably about 6, 7 years ago, and ever since then, from then to now, I never once thought of doing a face reveal because also at that point in time was probably like one of the worst points in my life for me, like
Mm-hmm.
mentally, dealing with insecurities physically and all that shit. I did not think I was the best looking person in the world. I still don't, but I'm much better looking now than I was. I can say that, much better looking. I look back at pictures of me back then, and I was like, thank God I did not do this shit then. Um, but it's really just a matter of battling your own insecurities in your own mind, even though that motherfucker has hands sometimes and can box. You gotta keep getting up. Um, it was a long kind of back and forth with me for a while once I actually started seeing people coming back to my streams kind of regularly and supporting the content that I would make. And the more and more that people started asking for face reveals, because I'm one of those people that when I say that I'm black, they're like, what? Because I sound like a white person. I understand. I get that. Um, which is probably why like a very small percentage of my friends did see what I looked like before I did this, just so I can get that kick out of them, just so I can get
Mm-hmm.
that laugh. And that also made it kind of easier for me to have the idea of doing a face reveal, because they didn't fucking clown me or like be rude or disrespectful in any kind of way.
Yeah.
Besides, of course, the fact you do not sound like how you sound. That, but with the face reveal in general, it's a lot more nerve-wracking and stressful when you think about it than actually just doing it. It's kind of just like ripping a band-aid off because now I feel comfortable on the screen and not something I thought I wouldn't that would never happen. Um, but with the love and support that I've gotten, it's made it a whole hell of a lot easier because again, I didn't think I was going to get that because of all the insecurities and all the bullying that I went through growing up through middle school
Mm-hmm.
and high school and shit like that. Like it made it really hard for me to see myself and be like, no one's gonna want to see that. Or be
Yeah.
like, people might want to see that. Um, but after you get past that hurdle, it's basically smooth sailing. I mean, I made that tweet saying, fuck it, if I hit affiliate, I'll do this webcam shit. And at the point in time, I did not think I was gonna hit affiliate on Kick. I was
Mm-hmm.
lucky enough to get it on fucking Twitch.
Yeah.
But 2 months later, here we fucking are. Um, it 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 was kind of just like a nut up or shut up kind of thing, like man the fuck up.
Yeah.
Um, because I had also, this whole like me not looking atrocious shit, this just recently happened. Like I had a very late glow up, if the
Mm-hmm.
youngins are still saying that shit these days. Um, so I'm still not used to not being atrocious to look at. Because again, I see pictures of myself in high school and middle school. It was bad. It was bad. But I've done a lot to help myself and my mental, like going to the gym, reading self-love books and all that shit, which I highly recommend, either gym or these self-love books. They've
Mm-hmm.
helped me tremendously. And just overall doing shit to better myself and my well-being and my mental fortitude,
Mm-hmm.
because that all accumulated to me finally getting the confidence to do this. So
Yeah.
if there's somebody watching this that is struggling with the idea of doing a face reveal, um, I'd say just do it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? And even if you do get a couple assholes in your stream that want to talk shit after you shit on them in a video game or whatever, just come in to talk shit just to talk shit. There's a ban button for a reason. I mean, you don't have to give that kind of negative energy any kind of attention because the more reaction you give to it, the more it kind of welcomes it to happen. So if you just block it off rip or just completely ignore it, it shouldn't really affect you. And if you have good mods in your streams, you shouldn't really see that anyway, honestly.
Yeah.
But I can't obviously put that all on mods.
Yeah, and I
But
mean, like I had said before, right before we had started this podcast, like I am proud of you, and like I said, I know that I kind of have a little bit more diversified way of looking at it, but at the end of the day, like it is a wonderful accomplishment for you to do, and I'm not proud of you just because you showed up on Facecam, but like very very shortly after, like we're here today doing this podcast,
Mhm.
and it takes a lot of courage, and like I said, I do acknowledge it regardless of my own opinions on it. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and like I said, you're an advocate for mental health for people that struggle with those things. And so, one of the important things that you had said that I do want to bring up is you said that if it wasn't for my friends already knowing what I look like and all this kind of stuff, it would have been a lot harder. So, what would your advice be to creators that don't have those friends, that struggle with networking, that's hard for them to reach out, or maybe they're afraid at showing who they are because they don't even have the support that they want, let alone the confidence to do it? What would your advice be to them to try to network more and have somebody to rely on?
I'd say it's, I mean, something you should just have the outlook on in life in general is you're supposed to step out of your comfort zone every once in a while and be uncomfortable to eventually be comfortable. I mean, it's a matter of taking that first step and having that discipline and that initiative to get yourself out there, even if it's just small. Like you can start small, talk to one person and see if that person has friends, get introduced to their friend group. Then you have more people. Talk to them, talk to people outside of them. Like you can start small and make baby steps and do whatever you're comfortable with and keep within your range to a certain degree. But if you're at a point where you know in your head that you could get further out there, but you're just holding yourself back because of mental problems or shyness or just not being able to talk to people that well, you have to step out of your comfort zone. You got to push that envelope a little bit in order to have the fruits of your labor be realized, you know? You can't expect for shit to just fall into your lap. You gotta do stuff yourself.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I think that's great advice, and I think that if people would just kind of get in their own headspace and get those thoughts out of their head, I think that they can. I feel like I feel like they can overcome a lot more than just what they're wanting to do, because I feel like even for you, like, yeah, like you've done face cam now and you've shown your face and you've gotten past that, but I feel like it's not really the fact that you've got past it, it's the fact of all the new opportunities you've just opened because you've done that. And I feel like that's something a lot of people don't look at it that way. I don't feel like they interpret it that way. I mean, do you kind of have the same opinion on that?
Yeah, and it's honestly very exciting. I mean, at the very base of it, if even if you want to get analytical, like faceless YouTubers, it's like one in a million that like super blow up, but the content that you can make if you truly are passionate about this whole content thing of streaming, um, the the level of content that you can make just by adding something as simple as a webcam, it's honestly like it's mind blowing. I mean, you can add new reactions. It's something else for people to look to. You can do like reaction shit on YouTube. A lot of people love that. I've been doing that on my streams here and there kind of recently, and my chat loves to see that. And it also gives the whatever community you have somebody to look up to. Like if somebody takes you as inspiration or whatever, it kind of puts a face to their inspiration, who makes them happy and who they can think about when shits get rough.
Hmm.
But when it comes to, again, content, it's something that once you do rip that band-aid off, a whole bunch of avenues open up for you that can truly make your space blow up.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. And I kind of say the same spill on a lot of my podcasts, but that's why I did something super simple on my Twitter page for the podcast. And that's why in the bio it said yes follows. And I say this a lot, but again, it's not just me to flex how many people I've had on the podcast. It's that if people like the kind of creator I am, because Feeds Mindset is me, it's people that I connect with, people that I'm passionate about, And if I have you on the podcast, I truly think you're an aspiring creator who my morals would align with. And I feel like, doing something simple as that, or just people being able to check on my podcast, people that struggle with networking and collaboration, if you would feel comfortable to reach out to me, I mean, we're on our 18th episode. So now, if you're comfortable with me, you have 18 other creators that I fuck with, and it's right there. It's right there in front of your face. All you have to do is click on the DM and send a message. And worst thing that can happen is say no. And I say that my opinions are different, but I don't. It could get taken out of context. I don't mean that in a harsh way at all. I just do it. I don't Nike. I don't think a whole lot about it. I do what it is. If I'm scared of it, a big part of my life specifically is I don't complain. I'll say that situation stuff, like just like my, like my financial life, like it's tough. I don't mind talking about those things. Everybody has issues, but I'm not going to complain and say that I don't know what to do. I'm just going to do whatever I can to figure out a way out of it. And so that's kind of my take on, even something simple like with Facecam. And I told you the same thing, out of respect when we had our conversation a couple months ago. It's just do it. And eventually, in the most respectful way possible, that's kind of what you ended up doing. But at the same time, there's obviously a lot more behind it. And I definitely understand that. But I feel like if people could just get that mentality, even just a little bit of just having a switch in their head that they can flip, and instead of being like, I don't know about this, I don't know about that, I don't know, they just click and go, and they just don't think about it for a few minutes, and then whatever happens after that happens. I feel like if people could do that, I feel like a lot more opportunities would open.
Yeah, it is a big step. It definitely is a huge step, especially with people who have struggled with the insecurities and bullying or whatever the fuck else. But you gotta get to a point where you're able to confidently say, fuck those kind of people. Like, you just big middle finger to them. You worry about you and yourself. Um, and always put your mental health first, but you have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to step out of your comfort zone, even if it's for a little while.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part too. It's not the fact that your mental health doesn't matter. It's the fact that once you've taken a long enough break, eventually a lot of people start using mental health kind of as an excuse. And I feel like, in the most respectful way possible, because I know a lot of people can take that in like an offensive way. At the same time, like, nobody's going to change your tomorrow. Nobody's going to send that DM to network. Nobody's going to tap into your streams if you're not live. Nobody's going to push you to do face cam if you're not openly talking about the idea of it. So until you get that ball rolling for yourself, you're always going to have those excuses. Oh, I'm stuck in my own head. Oh, I don't feel like it today. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next month or whatever. Like, you are the one that determines that. So it's not the fact that I'm harsh on my opinions. It's the fact that your life, as whatever future or career that you're wanting to pursue, you are the only one that's holding yourself back. And that's my issue with it, is not the fact, mental health matters so much. There's so much shit that people go through every day. Bullying, what you identify as, your ethnicity, your race. I understand all of that fully and completely. But there comes a point where you got to realize what you're prioritizing, and is being in your own shell for the next 2 to 3 months worth giving up that time as a creator that you could have used two or 3 months towards. And I feel like I said, I feel like if a lot of people would look at it that way, they would kind of have a better outlook. Is there any last things you'd want to say on that topic before we close off here?
Yeah, if anything, if you do have at least one friend that does partake in whatever kind of streaming or content creation that you do, and you decide to do a face reveal, have them with you. I mean, I would have done that myself, but I kind of wanted to be a more of a personal thing and kind of something for me. But having somebody else there kind of takes off that pressure for you, and keeps the mood light, so you're not in your own head and then end up backing out. So if you have that one friend, or hell, hit me up. Shit, like, I'll be there. I don't care if I just met you a couple minutes ago. I'll sit there, keep the mood light, fucking keep you out of your own headspace. Like, if it's something you genuinely want to do, there shouldn't be anything that stops you from doing it.
Yeah.
Just simple as that.
No, definitely. And it's People just utilize it, man. It would change their world, and I hope that if you're somebody watching and that applies to you, I hope that you realize that, because we say these things because we want you to prosper, not to just put you down for whatever decisions you're making. You know, whatever you made in the past is perfectly fine, but what you do today changes your tomorrow. So before we end off on everything, Envy, is there anything upcoming that you'd like to share with your community or anybody new that you're excited about?
I mean, there's a pretty big montage that I have in the works for my Grind to Obeying, kind of like my last montage I'll make for Modern Warfare 2. So
Mm-hmm.
it's supposed to be huge, even though it's not all Modern Warfare 2. It's a multi-COD montage that I'm very excited to release. I have Gypsy on Twitter editing it for me. He's a fire fucking editor,
Mm-hmm.
and he said it's going to take a couple weeks, so we're about a week and a half ish, 2 weeks ish into him doing it. So I'm hoping that it'll be out within another week or two, and that's going to be a banger. I'm very excited
Yeah.
to see that myself.
Yeah, I'm excited for that for sure. Well, I appreciate you being on. Like I said, I'm definitely proud of you, and I'm privileged to be able to not only share your story, but highlight that mental health factor for a lot of creators, because I feel like that's kind of something specifically it's not the fact that I don't think I've gotten covered. It's the fact that I didn't really think that I would, because the only thing I require for this podcast is face cam. And I think that it's a very unique way that this has panned out, because I feel like you're one of the only creators for a good while that's like just now opened up. So I'm very blessed for the opportunity, and this is a really big deal for both of us. And I really appreciate your time being here today.
No problem. It was a lot of fun. I remember
Yeah.
trying to get on this one before the face reveal. Trying to
Yeah,
be that one
yeah.
special
He
guy.
was literally one of the first people. And he was like, "So when are you gonna get me on?" I'm like, "When you do face cam." You're like, "Well, I'll see you tomorrow."
All right. Well, anyways.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you. This has been episode 18. Check out Nvyius below his face. There's his Twitter there in the description. Is the links to everything. Also his podcast. Go check it out. You can check out where I was on his podcast and my takes and my views on certain things as well. But go check him out. Show him some love and stuff. This has been episode 18. It's been a really fun time. If you're somebody that struggles with that type of mental health or any mental health at all, please just feel free to reach out. I don't care what you struggle with, what you're going through. You know, you're afraid to reach out. This is me telling you that you have an opportunity for two people right here that are not going to judge you, that's not going to say a single word and just want to see you grow. You have to surround yourself with like-minded people to be able to prosper and advance your career, or just to live your life better. Yeah, I feel like it's you just got to get out of your shell. So yeah, I really appreciate you being on. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Feeds Mindset episode 18. Appreciate you guys. Stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next one. My name is Feeds, and I'm out, guys.